This is the Basic Rhythm A video, and on this video we're going to discuss quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, dotted half notes, some rest, some basic information that we may have gone over at your lesson already, hopefully, and this will just be a review for you and some extra practice. So we have, to start with, we have a whole note. And it looks like a big hole is the best way to remember. It looks like a big hole, so we call it a whole note. If you take that big hole, that whole note, and you add a stem to it, we call this a stem. This is the head of a note. This is the stem. If you add a stem to it, that is a half note. The stem could go up or down. It really doesn't matter. Whether the stem goes up or down has to do with where it's placed on the staff. If you have the staff, the 5 lines and 4 spaces. If the note is on the third line or above, the stem goes down. If the note is below the third line, the stem goes up. That's the reason the stems go up and down. It just happens to do with where it's placed on the staff to make it look better to have most of the stem on the staff. So anyway, so you got our whole note, we've got our half note. If you take that half note and you color it in, make it black, then we have what's called a quarter note. Okay, so this is a whole note, this is a half note, and this is a quarter note. Now, the best way that I find to remember this is that if you have a whole note, it looks like a big hole. If you think of money, if you think of a quarter gets passed around a lot, because if you get a quarter, you spend it. It gets passed around. It gets dirty, just like a half note colored in kind of looks like it would be dirty, compared to a half note looks clean. If you have a $50, a lot of people will save a 50-cent piece or a $50 because you don't see them as much, and so it won't get passed around as much as a quarter, so the $50 stays clean looking. A quarter would get dirty. So that's just one little easy way. You might can think about that to memorize it to start with. Now, also if you're thinking about money, if you have a whole dollar, you have 4 quarters. If you have a $50, that's the same as 2 quarters. And if you have 1 quarter, that's the same as 1 quarter. You just have a quarter. So it's the same. If you have a whole note, you get 4 beats. If you have a half note, you get 2 beats. And a quarter note, you get 1 beat. So if you just kind of relate it to money a little bit, I find that most people can relate to that, and it works out real nice. So quarter note, 1 beat, half note, 2 beats, whole note, 4 beats. Whole note looks like a big hole. A half note has a stem on it, but it's clean looking, like a $50 would be clean. A quarter note is got a stem on it, but it's dirty looking. It's colored in, it's dirty looking. Like a quarter would get dirty because it's passed around, and a quarter gets 1 beat. So that's your basic notes. So I'm going to draw those back up here now, erase that a little bit. And I'm going to draw our whole note right here equals 4 beats. Our half note equals 2 beats. And our quarter note equals 1 beat. Now, you notice we have 1, 2, and 4. We're missing 3. What's going to get 3 beats? Well, if you take a half note, which gets 2 beats, and you add a dot beside it, we just call it a dotted half note. And that gets 3 beats. What the dot does is that adds half of the original note value to a note. If you don't want to remember all that right now, that's fine. Just remember that this is 3 beats. A dot adds to that a beat, so that makes that 3 beats. All right, so now that's our beats. So let's draw some measures. I'm not going to draw a staff. Just like you know that we do in our lessons, a lot of times we clap rhythm. And that's what I want to do right here is practice with some basic rhythm. So I'm going to draw 4, 4. Now that's our time signature. We can have 4, 4 time signature. We can have 3, 4 time signature. Or we can have 2, 4 time signature. The top number tells us how many beats are in each measure. Okay, remember we have a staff, we have bar lines that separate our piece into measures. So The top number tells you how many counts or how many beats are in each measure. The bottom number 4 just states a simple fact that a quarter note gets 1 beat. So in 4/4 time signature, 4 beats per measure, a quarter note gets 1 beat. In 3/4 time signature, 3 beats per measure, a quarter note gets 1 beat. And 2/4 time signature, 2 beats per measure, a quarter note gets 1 beat. So the bottom number just says a quarter note gets 1 beat, and that's really all you have to remember for a while. That number may change later on, but we'll discuss that later. We don't have to worry about that right now. So let's go back and let's just focus on 4/4 time signature, which is 4 beats per measure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a bar line here and here, and I'm going to draw a double bar line here. Now I'm not going to draw our whole staff. This just represents measures. And I want to clap this rhythm. So if I'm going to draw quarter note, which gets 1 beat, I'm going to draw another quarter note. I'm going to have to draw 4 quarter notes to fill up this measure, because I have to have 4 beats in this measure because I've got 4/4 time signature. Now if I draw a half note here, and another half note here, those get 2 beats apiece, so that's 2 plus 2 is 4, that fills up that measure. And here I'm going to draw a whole note. A whole note gets 4 beats. So when I count this, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here I'm going to count 1, 2, because the half note gets 2 beats. And then instead of saying 1, 2 again, I want to fill up my measure. So I'm going to say 3, 4. This is going to get beats 3 and 4. So 1, 2 on the first half note and 3 and 4 on the second half note. A whole note gets 4 beats, so I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I clap that rhythm, the way I'm going to clap that is I'm going to clap each time that I have a note. I'm going to clap my hands together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then when I get to my half note, it gets 2 beats, so I'm going to clap my hand and I'm going to hold it together for 2 beats. 1, 2. And then I'm going to hold it for 3 and 4. 3, 4. And then if I have a whole note, I'm going to clap my hands and hold them together for 4 beats, because a whole note is 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I put all this together, it's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to clap that one more time as I point to it. Or I'm going to snap it really so you hear. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I can mix these up in any combination as long as I have 4 beats per measure. So let me change this a little bit here. And some people may wonder why my lines on this board look dotted. I don't know why it does that. Probably because I'm not the best camera in the world, but these are solid lines going down through here. Sometimes they look dotted on the videos. So I'm going to start with a half note here. I'm going to put a quarter note and a quarter note here. Here I'm going to start with 2 quarter notes. And I'm going to put a half note. And then here I'm going to put a dotted half note and a quarter note. Now let's figure out how these fit together. This gets 2 beats. 1, 2. So this would be beat 3. It only gets 1 beat, so I'm only going to give it beat 3. This would be beat 4. This would be beat 1, beat 2. This gets 2 beats. This is beat 3 and 4. And this gets 3 beats because it's a dotted half note. A dotted half note gets 3 beats. And then this would be beat 4. So when I clap this rhythm, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let me draw one more up here. And this is a great way to practice your pieces, to look at your pieces that you're playing. As you know, I teach you to clap your rhythm. That's one of your steps when you're practicing, is to clap your rhythm, and then go back and do a count out loud. If you can develop good rhythm on this level, it'll help you out in the future when you get to harder pieces. This rhythm here is kind of tricky. It messes some people up. let's look at this a minute. Now, we've got, this is one beat. This comes in on beat 2 now. This is beat 1, 2, but this gets 2 beats, so this gets beat 2 and 3. That kind of messes people up a little bit when you put the half note in between quarter notes. And that's beat 4. So that first measure is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the way you count that. Now let's look at the second one. There's something wrong with this measure. Do you know what's wrong with this measure? We have a dotted half note which gets 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. And we have a half note which gets 2 beats. So we'd have to count 4. We'd have to count 5. Well, we only have 4 beats per measure. So we can't have that. This is a mistake in this measure. So what we do to fix that, you know, just for now, I kind of did that on purpose so you could see that you can't have more than 4 beats in the measure if your time signature is only 4/4. And then of course this whole note gets 4 beats. So let's clap this rhythm now. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how the rhythm works. Now you also have in music, you have what's called rest. And if you we haven't covered rest yet, this will be kind of a little introduction to rest for you. This is a quarter note which gets 1 beat. A quarter rest, the best way I draw it, it looks like kind of a slanted Z with a C, kind of a part of a C under it. That is a quarter rest. And what that means is you rest for 1 beat. Okay? So a quarter note means you're going to play something and hold it for 1 beat. A quarter rest means you're going to rest for a beat, which means you're not, if you rest, you're not going to play anything. A half note gets 2 beats. A half rest, if you have a staff, a half rest sits on top of the line like this. That's a half rest. It looks like that. It means you rest for 2 beats. Okay? Now, a whole rest is a little different. A whole note gets 4 beats, of course. A whole rest looks very similar to a half rest, except a whole rest is underneath the line. The whole rest is underneath the line. A half rest is on top of the line. And the way I kind of help people remember that is a half rest sounds a little bit like hat, and if you drew a hat, you might draw this right here, you know, possibly as a type of hat. Well, a half rest, half sounds like hat. If you're walking across this line here, if you were walking across here, you would fall into the hole. So that's a whole, maybe a little way that you can help remember the difference between a half rest and a whole rest if you see it. So a whole rest does not always mean you rest for 4 beats. It means you rest the whole measure. So sometimes if you're in 3/4 time, you may have a whole rest. That just means you're not going to play anything for 3 beats, that whole measure. So now let me draw this in on a music so you can see. Let's do 3/4 time here. So we're gonna have 1, and then I'm gonna draw a quarter rest. I'm gonna draw a bar line. I'm gonna draw a another quarter rest. Like I said, it's not a great looking quarter rest, but it gives you an idea. And then I'm gonna draw a let's draw it off to keep it simple. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is on beat 1, I'm going to play this note, or in this case, I'm gonna clap this note. On beat 2, I'm going to rest. There's nothing there. That's a rest. So in playing it, I would lift that note up on beat 2, and then I would play a note on beat 3. On beat 1, I've got another rest. I wouldn't play anything. I play 2 and 3, and then here, this is a dotted half note, gets 3 beats. So if I'm clapping this, I'm going to separate my hands for a rest. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to separate my hands when I clap, when I have a rest, when I'm trying to clap rhythm. So that's your basic introduction to rhythm. As we go a little further in another week or so, or 2 weeks, whenever we get to 8th notes, we'll do you can watch the Basic Rhythm B video, and it'll introduce eighth notes to you. Like I said, there's different types of notes that look like this. Those are called eighth notes, and we'll get to those in the next video.